This is the first time the Nissan Ariya has been to Australia. It's the first time that it's ever been driven in Australia as well. The Ariya is Nissan's latest electric vehicle to come here. It doesn't go on sale until probably sometime next year. The launch won't be for yonks, but Nissan has given us a test vehicle. It's a European spec car. That means we can't drive it out on public roads, but we do have this, a top secret test facility. Shall we? Let's go. The Ariya is a mid-sized SUV, about 4.6 metres long, which is close to the same length as a Toyota RAV4. But its styling is very different. Actually, it looks so different to the SUVs we're used to seeing. It's like a hatchback that's eaten another car, with that big bloated face and the puffed up wheel arches. But somehow, it looks stunning and intriguing. The cabin is also beautifully odd in places. Is this a hint of what's to come from Nissan or just an art project? Nissan hasn't announced the motor specs for the Australian Ariyas, but in the UK the Ariya can be had with a 63 kilowatt hour battery, making 160 kilowatts and 300 newton meters, or there's the bigger 87 kilowatt battery, making 178 kilowatts and 300 newton meters. The motor is at the front axle, and that means the SUV is a front-wheel drive. But there's also an all-wheel drive. It's called the E-Force, and it has an 87 kilowatt battery and two motors, one at the front and one at the back. And together, they make 225 kilowatts and 600 newton meters. We might get all these versions or just some of them. We'll probably know closer towards the end of the year. Again, Nissan hasn't told us the ranges or energy consumptions for the Australian Ariyas. They're still evaluating the cars, they say. But in Europe, the 63 kilowatt battery offers 403 kilometres of driving range, and the 87 kilowatt battery gives you a more substantial 533 kilometres. The all-wheel drive version offers 500 kilometres of range. Okay, so here we are driving the Nissan Ariya for the first time on Australian roads. Well, okay, we're not on Australian roads, we are on a test track in Australia. As I said, these are UK spec cars and they're not registered for Australian roads, so we can't drive them in public. Now, we have driven it before. Stephen Corby tested it in Sweden. It was a left-hand drive car, a Swedish version of the car. He couldn't get up to more than 70 or 80 kilometres an hour because of the Swedish speed limits and speed cameras. Well, guess what? We're gonna go as fast as we can on this test track. Probably not going to get more than, there we go, 120. What can I report? Bit of wind noise actually over the top of the windscreen. Good brakes, and we're not even at full regenerative braking either. Excellent brakes and a nice feeling brake pedal too. Some electric cars have got really sort of wooden feeling brake pedals, not this one. Handling is also very good. Now the batteries for this car run along the base of the car. It lowers the centre of mass and improves handling as well. Visibility, look, these pillars, these A pillars, they're like the Harbour Bridge. They do get in the way a little bit, not too much. Large windows though, enormous windscreen, and that acceleration. Look, it's not Tesla Model Y acceleration. Now Tesla Model Y would be probably its competitor out in the wild. That accelerates a bit better than this, but still this accelerates better than most petrol SUVs this size. In fact, I'd say all. And yes, being electric, you've got that instant acceleration on tap under your foot constantly. You just dab it, accelerate, dab, accelerate. There we go. Steering, accurate, a bit electronic feeling, but light and easy as well. Not a lot of road noise coming in. Very comfortable ride, very smooth. Now again, we are not on public roads. We are on a test track, and the actual surface of the test track isn't a racetrack at all, but it is designed to emulate what you get on Australian roads as well. It's a pretty coarse chip bitumen. It's pretty close approximation to what you'd get out there on a public road. And yeah, you do have a bit of an electric motor whine there in the background, but you get that with all electric cars. And here we go again. Acceleration up to 100. Beyond 100, 110, 120. There we go. Yeah, that wind noise. And look, one of the reasons why you do start to hear wind noise and road noise in an electric car is because you don't have a motor which is drowning out, the sounds of nature and physics out there. Oh, that handling is very good. what we can do, we've got several drive modes down here. We've got a eco mode. Eco. Who puts it in eco? We've got a standard and we've got sport. We were just driving it in standard mode there. Got an E-pedal button down here, you press that, and what that does, it increases your regenerative braking, and you don't even need to step on the brake. It just slows it all the way down, almost to a complete stop. And that regenerates the battery the most. Okay, so how much do you reckon all of this is going to cost? Look, I can't tell you right now. As I said, this is a European version. That's a European spec car. The Australian cars could look a lot like this. What we do know though is that the rival to the Ariya is something like a Tesla Model Y. And Nissan will want to price it pretty competitively to the Model Y. So the Model Y starts at about $70,000. So we think maybe you could be looking at a $65,000 to maybe $80,000 mark for the Ariya, depending on the grade. In the UK, the entry grade Ariya comes standard with dual zone climate control, the two 12.3-inch screens with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They have sat-nav and a wireless phone charger. They also have LED headlights and 19-inch alloy wheels. But remember, that's on the overseas version. In terms of grade, again, we don't know what grades the Ariya will come to us in Australia. Not yet. We will eventually, closer to the end of the year. But we can expect to see things like a double screen like that. It's got a swish control which moves it across to the driver display. I love these haptic controls here for the dual zone climate. It's like a wood panel when you turn the car off and it disappears. You turn it on and it lights up. It's very, very cool. And there's a nice feeling to touching the buttons as well. I would say 100% chance we'll get that here. Same with the controls here on the center console. This moving center console as well. Actually, let's talk practicality, because you move this all the way forward and it gives you more space in the back. Let's talk about legroom in the back. Now this is around about the same size as a Nissan CarsGuide, but which is sort of a small mid-size SUV, but the space inside is so much better. That's in my driving position. I'm 191 centimeters tall. That's stupidly tall. That space that's unnatural. I don't know how they've managed to do that. Flat floor as well, no transmission tunnel. You've got cup holders which fold down in the armrest here. The only thing is, and everyone talks about how spacious the Ariya is, and it is in terms of legroom, and the width feels really good as well, but with a sunroof it really does lower the ceiling height down. Now you might not believe this, but my body's not actually very long, just my legs. The height's all in the legs, and my head is actually pretty much touching the ceiling right now. I tell you what I do like though, these doors, they open ridiculously wide. Anyone that's got children understands the value of having a wide door. Putting a kid into their car seat like that, that's really, really good. Let me show you the boot. Yep, a main focus of the Ariya is space for all your stuff. So along with that moving center console, there's this hidden storage bin which folds out under the dash. Nissan calls it the magic box. Oh yeah, the boot. Okay, the boot. Now, be careful of that. It actually hangs down, this chunky bit hangs down quite low. Look, I'm quite tall as well, but yeah, look, what is quite high is this, the load lip. So look, it's up to around about there. That means you're gonna have to lift prams up and shopping up to get into the back of the boot. But the boot does have these handy storage compartments, even if it's not the most enormous boot. The Ariya most likely won't go on sale in Australia until next year, and so it hasn't been given an ANCAP safety rating yet. But ANCAP will very likely adopt the maximum 5-star rating the Ariya scored in its Euro NCAP test. That's the European equivalent. That'll mean the Ariya will arrive with AEB with pedestrian and cyclist detection plus rear AEB. There's also lane keeping assistance and a 360-degree camera. We'd expect the Ariya to be covered by the same 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty that Nissan applies to all its vehicles. The battery will most likely be covered by a separate 8-year 160,000 kilometre warranty, just like the Nissan Leaf EV. So there you have it. First time driven in Australia, not quite on Australian roads, at the launch, which will be around about next year, sometime next year. We'll be able to drive this on Australian roads. We'll be able to tell you more about what it's like to drive in the real world. But on first impressions, here at this test track, it's very, very good.